Kia ora tātou. Good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody here. There's no apologies for this morning's meeting. So I'd just like to hand over to Councillor Ferguson for the words of wisdom this morning. Councillor.
I went through this last month with my wife. I just got a couple of logs out. I had an A and a B, so I'm going to do A for you. So it's three short words of wisdom instead of just one. But the first one is, and it dates back a bit, once you carry your own water, so carrying buckets like you used to have to, you will learn the value of every drop. So I was talking about it's quite apt with our water reforms and that at the moment. Another thing is, this is the Dalai Lama. There are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday and the other is called tomorrow. Today is the right day to love, believe and do most of life.
Thank you.
One more. On a light note. Don't blame a clown for acting like a clown. Ask yourself, why do you keep going to the circus? That's a bit of tongue in cheek. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor. I don't believe there's any late items in today's agenda. The confirmation of the order of the meeting, I believe we'll be following as is presented in our agenda. We have nobody to speak in the public forum. Confirmation of minutes of the Ōtorohanga District Council dated 21st of June 2022. Do I have a mover and a seconder of those? Moved Councillor Ferguson, second Councillor Mann, all in favour? Carried. No matters arising. Councillors, sorry,
just to respond, so it's just one councillor updates. Please, just at the bottom of page 17, the very last line, it was with regard to the potential to upgrade. It should be to a hospital, not the existing, because we haven't got an existing.
well, thank you. Good to see you in the minutes, Councillor. Nothing further? That's all. Thank you. Moving on to the receipt of the minutes of the Kapia Community Board dated June 2022. Do I have a move on a second for the receipt of those, please? Councillor.
We weren't any with it.
Minutes. Okay, that's probably a good reason not to move the second one. Don't vote on as well.
Just have to excuse this freedom chair. We just have to acknowledge that there were meetings scheduled, but they were cancelled and there were no minutes.
So you have to have a resolution for that to acknowledge the meeting or just acknowledge it?
No, I don't think there was a resolution.
Okay, thank you. So due to the lack of agenda items, there was no Kapia Community Board or Ōtorohanga Community Board meetings on those 4 dates. Moving on to my verbal report. Well, for the first time, I've actually had no one this month. What I will say in my verbal report is I had the flu and I got COVID. So consequently, I've been incredibly low profile to the point where it was quite disappointing that last week I couldn't turn up to a public forum at QQ Hall to talk about Three Waters. But at that stage, I couldn't go anywhere. But we did, look, and I must thank all the councillors that were present on the day. It was really, really important that you were there, and also assisted with having Mayor Toby Adams of the Hauraki District Council there to just assist in the conversation, which is really quite valuable. Moving on to item 265, proposed priority buildings and priority pedestrian thoroughfares. I'll hand over to Phil.
Good morning.
Morning, Phil.
So this is just following on from our last part of the prone building program, and we're seeking approval from council
to approve the section of Maniapoto Street, State Highway 3 between the intersections at Renfrew Street and Te Kainoa Street.
Sorry, Paul, just stop now. How would you go? Is this the order we do? We do have two submitters to present to us today, and that's Malcolm and Norman Burmester. I'm just making sure, guys, we've got the order of presentation here.
Yeah, that's fine. I just lead into that and
Okay.
just introducing the subject.
Thank you, Phil.
Okay.
All good.
So this is just seeking a decision from
Awesome.
council
No, thank you.
around that. So I'll leave it with.
Appreciate it.
submitters.
Awesome, thank you. So just to I think Malcolm and Norman, you're coming up together. Just if you'd like to come up to the mic and speak to your submission. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm not sure where to start, but for some time we've been wanting, or I've been wanting to do a bit of an upgrade on the building at the frontage, including the pelmet and also the veranda. But over the scopes, get the job completed, but I'm kind of a little bit unsure. I see as part of it, does the part of it mean getting that process done in the front of the building on the street, or there's other little bits of work I want to do to the building, but just wanted a bit of clarity there as far as that's concerned. And am I able to carry on with that, or as part of it?
Yeah, I can't answer that question at the moment,
Yes.
but obviously Phil will be staying in regular contact with you in terms of where the
Yes.
progress of works are.
Yes.
And obviously this is just like, this is about identifying the priority buildings on the main
Yeah.
pedestrian thoroughfares in Ōtorohanga, and whether the works on those need to be carried out in half the time frame which is suggested for earthquake prone buildings further on. But there's no question, Phil will answer some of those questions, I'm sure, in his presentation.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really prioritising what are deemed to be the higher risk buildings in that pedestrian thoroughfare.
Yes, no, that's fine. It was mentioned that I see in the letter that came out to me, they were saying there's quite a high priority of foot traffic in that area, but it's not. In my case, it's not, because we've got the Lawrence Street entrance, which is where most of our farming people come in through the back entrance. We don't get a lot of walking traffic. Maybe to the shop next door, the liquor store is, but having a vacant section between the building and don't have shops across from me. To be honest, it's actually in good condition. Well, what I feel it is. Okay, the iron, we've got to do the work with the iron, but structure inside seems to be fine. Some years ago, we had a major fire with the building next door, and knew that wind check was built. And at that time, we had a lot of work done, which was actually shaking the building. The only thing that we had problems with at one stage was a crack in the wall between the new building and that was also redone. There is, in the reinforcing in the building, that has, in the early days, they did number 8 wire, which you can see the remains of it, and also piping, which was also poured into the steel, into the concrete structure. So, and with us being a machinery business, we have a lot of vibration in that. So the building's standing up, all native timber, it's all native timber. We've had one of the builders inspect it, been right up into the front of the building. Nothing's moved, nothing's changed, nothing's rotted in there. So for all those years it's been up, it's done pretty well. As far as the back entrance, we're pretty open. That's through to the back of the building. But I am definitely aware that work has to be done at the front, in the front of that showroom, and the pelmet in the veranda. So unfortunately, it's sort of dragged out with COVID, and for our builders, inspectors have been, or builders have been busy. It's been a bit of a problem to get somebody and to get the job done. But I've been a little bit kind of bit vague. One stage there I was told to repair it and then organise one of the builders, but got to that stage because they were always busy. So yeah, I'm not sure from there what else I could give, but someone's more than welcome to come down and have a look, or we need a report from an engineer. That's not a problem.
Yeah, thanks, Norm. You know, for us as a council, I mean, obviously, all councils across New Zealand have to apply with the building standards and
Yes.
trade standards. And so it's a matter of us working with the owners on Maniapoto Street and
Yes.
identifying where that,
Yeah.
that high foot traffic area is. I appreciate your business has entered from Lawrence Street as opposed to Maniapoto Street, but it's about creating consistency down Maniapoto Street.
Yes.
So, and we're not talking about a lot of this work happening tomorrow. We're talking about a 12-year period.
Yes.
So it's really getting yourself prepared in terms of engineers report, understanding the integrity of the building,
Yes.
and then working along with the council
Yeah, sure.
going forward from there.
Yeah.
So look, there's no question that our staff are here to work with you to ensure
Sure.
that everybody stays safe at the end of the day.
That's great.
Awesome. So as I said, we won't be making any decisions today, but I'm glad you've taken the opportunity to come along
Yeah.
and talk to your submission.
Yeah.
And knowing full well that our job is to work with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's not a case of me leaving what you see at the moment. It's just that I've had that issue with builders. All the builders have been fairly busy, and then when they come to have a look at this sort of work, they kind of backed off me a little bit because they weren't sure of clarity as to what needed to be done. So,
And I think, once the engineer's report has been done on the property, you get a clearer understanding of what's needed, then
No,
it's going to
that's
be
fine.
way easier for the builders as well.
yeah, sure. No, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Any questions of Norman councillors?
Yeah.
Normally what we're kind of looking at today though is just changing it from, basically something has to be done within 25 years. And they've just basically, we've got to take a call on it being a high foot traffic area,
Yes.
which means you've only got 12 and a half years to do it
Yes.
half the time. But as a building owner and a business owner in town, it's in 12 and a half years, do you think it's in this climate that we're in reasonable? Or do you think you're in a high foot traffic area that really wants it? That's kind of the thing. Basically still have to, but the building is still going to have to cover some standard.
Yeah.
It's either going to be 25 years or 12 years, 12 and a half years.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think within that 12-year period will give me enough time to get things sorted properly there.
Right.
Yeah. It's definitely,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much for taking the time to come along.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can more than welcome to stay while Phil's giving the presentation, Malcolm. You don't have to rush out.
Yeah.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Andrew.
So once again, just to reinforce, this is about improving that section of Maniapoto Street as a priority pedestrian thoroughfare. So I just addressed Mr. Burmester, some of Mr. Burmster's
absolutely.
questions. Mr. Burmester suggested that he's a bit confused about what this means for his particular building. And I'd just like to say that he could upgrade his building anytime he likes or do work on his building. This doesn't stop him from actually doing work on his building. So just clear on that. As far as the pedestrian access goes, that Mr. Burmester raised, I appreciate that people are coming in through the other street and that, but the building's still fronting onto Maniapoto Street, so it makes no difference in terms of the legislation and how we address that. So people still have the ability to go in the front way from Maniapoto Street, so it still poses the same level of risk regardless. Not a lot more I need to say here. I don't think the objective is really around the highest level of public safety that we can deliver, and the shorter time frame actually delivers on that. So that's really the decision of the council today. We'll win it up, and we've consulted pretty well. We had a really good consultation evening, which about 20 people attended, which was quite good. And a lot of questions asked, of course, from people, and a lot of clarifications. And the feeling I had talking to amongst some of the people that turned up on the evening was that they were a lot clearer in their mind about what this was about. There's a lot of confusion when you put this sort of stuff out, and people obviously concerned about how it affects them and how it affects their building, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so the consultation process, I think, went quite well, considering good turnout on night. Not any submissions, unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
Well, just one thing, in terms, are all towns and cities going through exactly the same consultation process at the moment, or are they at this stage, according to the council, whether they deem to be those priority pedestrian thoroughfares?
If they decide to investigate the process around introducing a priority pedestrian route or a route of significant importance, yes, they have to go through the full consultation process.
And the likes of Hamilton City, that'd be pretty much a circle around all the inner city is.
Yeah, done and dusted. I did that about 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So we went through a similar process where we went out to the public.
And similar time frames you're working with, the 12.5 years versus 25?
Definitely brought back in terms of establishing those. It was a little bit different in Hamilton. We had a major hospital, and it's about making sure that any earthquake risk buildings that are on those major routes going to the hospital don't get blocked in an event. So a little bit different, and the pedestrian thoroughfare is quite significant through Victoria, side streets, and also Franklin, Main Street of Franklin. So it's quite a significant area that was identified as a priority pedestrian route thoroughfare.
Councillors, any questions of Phil or Andrew? Councillor Williams? And then Councillor Bell.
Did all building owners get the letter, or just the ones that have brought that?
So the process was we identified the buildings we thought were potentially earthquake prone, and we sent a letter to those people. So at this point in time, the people have not been notified. Nobody's been notified that the building is earthquake prone. That's the next stage in the process once we get through this.
So for the information evening, was that for all building owners regardless, or just those that were?
We sent that out generally to any public that wanted to attend.
Right.
So there were some building owners, people that were ex-committee people, and I'm just trying to think of a couple of public people as well. 1 or 2 tenants.
Phil, just how did you determine it's a priority pedestrian? It's just that kind of, you've just blanketed the whole of Maniapoto Street. But when you actually look, I was reading the town plan, concept plan, basically they're saying there's only 40% of parking utilised sort of each end of the street, and in the middle there's 70%. And that was a survey done from 9 in the morning till 3:30, I think, which would be the busiest peak times. Which tells me really there's not that much people at the ends of the town, they're all in the middle. So
Well, I mean,
which kind of brings up to Mr. Beamister saying that there's only a few people walk past this building. So what's the criteria there?
So this is about protecting the walking public. So if Mr. Beamister didn't have a building that was open to the public, I could accept that there was an argument, but his building is open to the public, therefore you're going to have pedestrians either getting out of vehicles and going into his building, or people walking past his building and going into his building. So the thing is, he's got an operation where he's inviting people to come in and he does work for them. So it's no different to any other shop or commercial business on the main street.
I'm more meaning, basically there's is it a set number, like is there 100 people walking in the streets? Or, because what I'm meaning is basically from the car parking data from the town plan, not that many cars are parking the top end of town and the north end, north and the south end. They're all in the kind of going in the middle, but there's no cafes in the middle, obviously. So basically, that what I'm saying is there's not that much foot traffic. Is there some sort of thing that you've got to have so many people walk past it? Is there a survey done? That's what I'm.
Just to answer that, if we take the other part of the same plan, it talks about growth of the community. So we're looking forward here for the next period of the next 3 decades. So
Yeah.
you could quite say, well, you want to look at that aspect of the report and saying that we're going to grow. And we're looking at particularly our public in the future. So there's, yeah, and Phil and the team didn't have those, that part of the information. So on the reports.
Yeah, and I think that the thing for me is that you're always going to get variables along any street. Victoria Street, Hamilton would be exactly the same. You're going to get different amounts of people walking for various reasons. But what we see in Manikato Street quite clearly is that people stop and do their business. And they generally stop on the main street and get out of their car and walk on and to do their business. And so that's critical. Whether it's one person, two person, or 2 people or 100 people, it's still significant in the event because those people are at risk. So, and as Andrew alludes to, I think that we will see our town getting busier in time because it is a busier town and people come here to do their business. And and since I've been here, I've seen the shops starting to be, filled up again and things like that. People starting to do some work on some of their buildings now. So I think that we have to plan a little bit. And also, it is a walking public we're talking about. And our general walking public in this town is along Manikato Street. That's where they are.
There's a question over the side. No? Thank you, Andrew. No further questions? If not, we have a staff recommendation in front of us that Ōtorohanga District Council approves a section of Manikato Street, State Highway 3, between the intersections of Bradford Street and Takava Street as a priority pedestrian thoroughfare. I'd like to move that. Do I have a seconder? I'm sorry, Councillor Johnson, all in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Andrew. So thanks for attending, guys. Really appreciate it.
So I'm just on your mainstream.
Well, sorry for the delay there, councillors. Moving on to item 266, draft Ōtorohanga town concept plan. Sorry, moving on. Sorry, we'll move on to, I apologise, to item 267. So there is a bit of change in order of the council agenda application for temporary road closure, Ōtorohanga Rally 2022. You don't look like Marion, but we'll do in the meantime.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. My apologies, Marion couldn't make it this morning. She called in sick, so I'll present this report today. I'll take the report as read. I think that's probably the best way forward and answer any questions, but just briefly, it is for the Hamilton Car Club to have the road closure up in the section of road behind Kiwi for the Waitama Rally. It's our section of that rally as it continues into Waitomo. So there's quite a considerable amount of recommendations in it. I won't read through them, but I'll just take it as read and answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Mark. Again, I'll also take it as read as well. Is there any questions from councillors? Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Your Worship. Your Worship, I'm having a little bit of problem with this one because I spoke to our finance manager yesterday and asked how many property owners are on the 3 roads, the Honakiwi, Kaimango and Hotu roads. And he said that the rates database indicates there's 140 properties on those roads. Now, the work that the car club has done indicate that they only approached 8. Now, I don't know how many property owners are affected on the sections of those roads that are going to be used for the rally. So it could be quite different. But even if you took a half or even a quarter of those properties, a quarter would be 35. 8 residents, of whom only 4 agreed, is not a conclusive for me as to why we should agree to this. And I'll make the point too that one of the names that's on that list doesn't actually indicate whether they agree or disagree. So we could be arguing that there's only 3 that have agreed. 2 of those were not at home with the gates were locked. 1 gave no indication of agreement and 1 disagreed. So it's hardly compelling support for the rally. There was 1 objection from a local resident to this event, and we recently received thanks from that resident for the quality of maintenance that was carried out on Hotu Road by council's contractors. And I can only support this recommendation on the condition that the bond of $5,000 is actually paid, and all sections of Hotu Road recently maintained are reinstated to the condition left by our contractors, and that any related costs are borne by the applicant. I have to say that I think the Hamilton Car Club let itself down in terms of its consultation with the owners on those properties. To me, 8 residents is not a compelling reason to agree to this one. Having said that, I actually do like to see car rallies. In fact, I've taken part in some myself a long time ago. So I'm not opposed to them in principle, but I just think on this occasion, this application has let itself down.
Councillor, that point. Mark, what did you answer that?
Yeah, I'm probably not in a position to answer to the detail that Marion would have. It was my understanding that there was only 5 affected residents, so now we've got a number of 8 down to 3. So there's definitely some questions to be asked and answered there, Councillor. So I agree with you there. And I quickly read this this morning as well, and I found that part of the affected residents slightly confusing as well. So there's some questions I think I'll go away from here today with. Whether that stops us from proceeding today or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, does the resolution have to pass?
30th of October is the rally date. So I think there's a 3-month process, which July, yeah, so that's 3 months. But I'm sure we could come back in August if we want to dig into that a bit further.
Yeah, Mark, going on the issues that Councillor Jeffries has raised, I think it probably is important that we do come back rather than just by default saying it's not okay to have a rally. I mean, there could be a lot more information that's necessary.
Yeah, no, I'm more comfortable there. I think just in the quick time I reviewed this, there was a few questions I had. So no, I completely agree. We can shore up that side of things. In answer to the maintenance, it is my understanding that we were going to maintain it after the rally as well as part of maintenance schedule. So they've obviously done some work now, it's going to work afterwards. So that's another thing I can clear up too.
Thank you. Just one further question, if I may, Your Worship. Mark, through you, Your Worship. Mark, how soon before the event will you actually do a pre-event drive over so that you can actually maintain or determine what the quality of those roads are before the rally goes through?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the process is. Sorry, I'm not the perfect person to answer that question either, but needless to say, I'll ask a few more questions around this sort of event. This is my understanding is this event didn't take place last year because of an issue, and so we've got some time. Let's ask a few more questions, and I imagine I think it's a 7 to 10 day final notification. So I would imagine it would be within that last week that we would do an inspection to be any sort of relevance to it rather than doing it too early.
Thank you, Worship.
Tony, you had a question?
Through your worship. So there's two ways we can do this. We can either bring it back to council on your next agenda, or you can be really clear about the things that you want us to look into. We can find out and send you all an email to let you know that they have been done.
Well, I think it would be useful to know exactly how many property owners are actually on the sections of road that are going to be used. I mean, 8 could be appropriate, but I don't know.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
Yeah. It is past Turatira Road, like it is the less populated area. Yep. It just needs checking. Yep.
So we've got how many people are affected. We've got that we expect that there will be a pre-inspection within 7 days of the rally taking place. So we need to let our staff know that someone needs to program that in, because that is our expectation, that we do the inspection within that week. So we need.
So the big thing is the clarification around whether the next council meeting gives them enough time to still run the event. And if those conditions are met and doesn't need to come back, then we could pass a resolution that is passed on those conditions
Yes,
being met.
yes.
That's what you're after.
Yes, yeah.
Or if they've got plenty of time, then let that happen and then make a decision on the approval percentage, I suppose.
Yeah. Yep. So,
And I guess we could have, through you, your worship, we could have a bob. So if Mark does his investigations into these matters and finds that it's not appropriate and they're not going to meet it, well, we need to bring it back to you anyway, because you'll need to decline, I guess, the application. So yeah, we can have a kind of a placeholder that it comes back to the next
I
council.
think it'll still have to come back, wouldn't it?
Well, no, you can approve it on conditions and give us delegation. That's our kind of job, is to make sure that what you want is actually implicated and implemented rather. So yeah, so you could give us that delegation and say, we need, and we can send that out to you via email, get Hamilton Car Club to put it in an email to us, who they have, put it in writing to us, how many are affected, who they have consulted with, and we send that out to you so you can see it.
And what the follow-up was, and I support what Kit's saying, my comment on it was, that looks like a box ticking exercise.
Yeah.
We've been to these places, that date was not, this person said no, but we don't know what they've done to follow up on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other, just following on from what Annie's saying, when will we know if the conditions are achieved? How do we know how many different owners, blocks of land, or who's a resident there? You know, we might be asking for conditions that we can't even find out ourselves. So, how do we go around that one?
So we can be, okay, so Mark goes away, finds out the information, comes back with the information that we've obtained over the last couple of weeks. We've already passed a resolution that resolution for the rally can proceed if it meets these conditions, but in terms of what's the condition of around the number of people that want the rally to happen and those that don't, then we have a threshold there of 75%. Or is that is something there that's open to further discussion rather than.
And that's probably where we would use our discretion about bringing something back to council.
yeah. So it's
I really think it has to come back so we can have that
No,
open
that's
discussion.
absolutely fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So, one more question, Mike, what was the actual issue? Why didn't it go ahead last year?
It says in the report there was a trying to remember the exact words, a third party.
There was an
issue or-
administrative
Administrative,
error
yeah.
at another approving council.
Okay, so I think the thing, probably pretty much a clear message going back to the Hamilton Car Club here is that they've got to actually do their due diligence first rather than coming with a half-baked approach.
Yeah, and I think there's some lessons there for us to maybe ask a few more questions before presenting a report to. So I'll have to take responsibility for that. So,
Sorry, one more thing. I mean, would it be sensible for us to go back to the road closure from a previous year and see how many visitors that actually contacted and whether we approved it or not? That way we, we've probably already set precedent.
That's assuming the route's the same.
Okay, well, need to check that too, but I mean, just another way of finding a condition that's appropriate that they can actually, that's, well, I got 4.
At this stage, I think we'll go away and come back with further information. And then I think we'll have to discuss, because we're going with this 3/4 for and 1/4 against, are we happy with that sort of percentage? And rather than come back here, what?
Just, we've approved another rally in the district, but they've done their proper paperwork in June, So really, it's just probably the Hamilton Car Club just tidy up there. I mean, we've approved the Target one, Hoddle Road or whatever, because that was all done, and we had all the information, so probably just Hamilton Car Club needs to maybe just give the information.
So you need the resolution to say we'll bring pictures.
Well, you're declining the application. You're not approving it on this basis, you're declining it until further information is provided. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, well, I just put in the coordinates at the start of the rally, and that map that there's a bit deceiving. The 1660 Honekiwi Road is not far from Waimango Road, so you go right up past the Honekiwi Hall and past Austin Road and keep going. So you're out in the middle of nowhere before the actual start of the road closure. I think the map's a bit deceiving in there. That looks like it's just past Turatira Road. It's not. It's way out past Austin Road. It's just about a Waimango Road. So when I get that fed to me, I would say they'd only have 8 or 10 farms on that area. That'd be good for us. Yeah, and so that's the, but it's 1660 Honekiwi Road, which I've written as the start. That's where it is. So it's a fair way out.
So we're satisfied until if they can prove that they've done their due diligence with the.
I would be satisfied. Just confirm those numbers. From what I can see there, you're probably only talking about Scott's and a few other small lots out there.
yeah, it looks like, from what I understand, it's 5. So
Yeah.
we've got a bit of a discrepancy in numbers, but if we could go away and get some assurance that those 5 have been spoken to, be comfortable with it. You might not get all 5, but if we got 4 out of the 5, or are you expecting a full 100%?
Yeah, well, they'll have to go to Gisborne to see one of the others, see what's the matter with the wall wings. Then there's, John Mills's farm's been sold for trees, so he won't be there.
Yeah, it's pretty scarce.
Yeah, there's not many people, not many farms here, so.
Phone call.
Yeah.
So councillors,
I'm
okay,
not
double
sure.
approaching 2 things. Let's just put a resolution to me which says declining. If we approved it, satisfied that the Hamilton Car Club had done its due diligence at the discretion of staff, is that their satisfactory? You still want it to come back to us?
I think
Mark
I'm be
and
happy
Gary
with
can
Mark's discretion. It's just you get 3 or 4 out of 5 on it. It's mine.
I think we need to at least bureaucracy.
Okay, I think it's a some responsibility. Okay, you've got a different resolution there. We'll try again.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm happy to okay, but I just think they should tighten up their papers a little bit to the same standard as say the people at Target Rally.
And I think
And
I
the
think a
council
clear
staff
message
can
back to
make it.
Hamilton Car Club that they, it's identified that they have, no, not with this.
And will the bond of 5,000 be paid?
Mark?
That would be my expectation. I see it's written in the recommendation that it can be waived, but that's a decision for me to make.
It should be paid.
I don't think that's a good
Just say the same.
Well, I think through you, your worship, your emphasis is on, I know there's something in here about liaising and providing evidence of liaison with all
Yeah,
operators
recommendation
and businesses.
H, I think it is.
Yeah, H. I just wondered whether you wanted it to be more clearer than that, or is that okay? I mean, that's the following, that's the conditions. And so I guess it's our job to talk to relevant staff and say, the bond, the number of properties and evidence of liaison with them, and the inspection 7 days before are the 3 critical things. I mean, it's all needs to be done, but they're the 3 things that council are the most concerned about. Correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
So then the resolution should say as it is, because all of that's in there. It's just a matter of us giving that emphasis to staff to ensure it happens.
There's just one other thing to say, on their checklist, public liability insurance says it's 2 million, but I think somewhere I read somewhere else it was 10. So can we get clarification? I think it's normally 10, isn't it?
It's 10 million in the report. Yes, I think on the check sheet you read what it said 2 million. I picked up on that as well.
Yep.
So
is it 2 or 10? Should it be?
Well, it needs to be confirmed. It should be 10, but obviously it's a generic form.
Yep, sure. No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
add that, Councillor Jeffries, just so that we can.
Cool. Okay, so we've got the staff recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council approve the application for temporary road closure of sections on Highway 1 and how to do roads to enable the Hamilton Car Club to hold a tournament on Sunday, 30 October 2022, with the following conditions imposed, which are identified from 1 through K. But councillors need further confirmation or not confirmation, satisfaction from staff that the criteria have been met with the public liability insurance at 10 million.
So do you want to add an L to this? Do you want to add another recommendation? Oh no, you add number 2, would it be higher? Hold on a minute.
Well, the 10 million.
Sort of the 10 million is already in there as a recommendation here.
It's clause F. Yep.
So I think they're satisfactory.
So are you adding something?
No,
Okay.
I'll take that out.
Yep.
So it's, on the condition that staff are satisfied that the Hamilton Car Club has done their due diligence. Third, Councillor Ferguson, second, Councillor Jeffries, all in favour?
Aye. Thank you.
Against? Carried.
Thanks for your consideration, councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to the town consent plan, I'd imagine. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Nadia, welcome. 266 councillors, the Ōtorohanga Town Consent Plan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kia ora koutou. Coming online soon, he is sitting there and waiting, is Gary Marshall, one of our consultants, our lead consultant from Resilio on this project. Some of you will recognise that face.
Sorry, Gary, you can't see me. I'm just out of screen at the moment. Welcome.
So firstly, I'd just like to thank the councillors and the community board for the engagement that you've shown throughout this project. It's been really appreciated. And also like to thank Ross for writing the report, which I will be talking to. He is enjoying the south of France at the moment. Yeah. On the table, you will find sections that were noted in the attached draft to the agenda as needing insertion for today's meeting. So the first one is page 3, the whakatauki, and on page 5, the vision. The plan itself is very comprehensive, and Gary can shortly provide any answers to questions or comments that you might have about it. But if I can just highlight a few things, the report along with the draft really does highlight the key partnerships that we've had with Mana Whenua via representatives from Te Mihi Mihi Nui RMC and stakeholder groups, and also the engagement activities that we've had to date. We're seeking from council today approval to proceed with the project and the community engagement of the draft town concept plan. In going through the document, you may have some minor suggestions or editorial amendments that we can incorporate into that final draft before it goes out to consultation, should you agree to do so. And we're planning on starting that this coming Monday. So that's Monday, the 25th of July, closing the 15th of August. And then submissions will be heard by yourselves, the community board, and supported by Mana Whenua on the 29th of August. And then this project and its action plan will be live.
Awesome. Thank you, Nadia.
Very exciting.
Very cool. Are we handing over to Gary at this stage?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe between Gary and I, we can answer any questions between the two of us.
Awesome. Welcome, Gary. Do you have, what would you like to add to what Nadia has just said?
Kia ora. I don't think I need to add anything specifically. I hope the plan speaks for itself to a degree. There's been, we've got a huge amount of feedback through the process, and we've done our best to capture as much of that as possible. So if anything, it's a little bit too long, but we do also have technical supporting documents, which will be we're currently kind of tidying up at the moment to support some of the findings that we've had. But certainly happy to answer any questions or take any feedback that people have.
Thanks, Gary. Like, it's certainly a comprehensive report. I'm just hoping now, I suppose, that the public do get really engaged with the next stage of it, and that it's supported by a community board and council. Councillors, any questions of Gary or Nadia at this point? Yes,
No
Councillor.
questions, but just, yeah, supporting the quality of what we're looking at in front of us, and that once we've finished it, it's going to be a tremendous tool for incoming elected members and staff to use and go forward. I think it's just looking at the vision that's just been put in front of us. I think, you know, if we had our own version of the Governor General's Welcome to New Zealand Citizens, that this would be an excellent piece of text to put in there.
Hey, Gary and Nadia, just out of interest more than anything, what have been, I suppose, the revelations and the work that's been done so far, the challenges and the highlights?
I think some of the things that came through really strongly through the process was the overall alignment the community have around their feelings around Ōtorohanga and the direction that they'd like to head in, more so than in other projects, similar projects that we've worked on. And I think really valuing some of the natural assets in particular that are already in Ōtorohanga seemed like really strong drivers for the project. And there was very little disagreement with some of the key values which were identified and the key direction that people would like to go in. And also, I guess, informing that was really the concerns and opportunities that were identified by people. So we asked, as many of you will know, we asked the same questions to a full range of community without any prompts about what other people responded with, and there was a lot of alignment there. So in some respects, whilst we had quite a lot of information to process, it was relatively easy to process because of the degree of consistency of the feedback that we've got. And so I guess as whilst in an ideal world, we would have had more people engage in the process, it became clear after the second round of engagement is that we weren't receiving a huge range of new and different inputs in the information. So I feel like whilst we've still got some new and more things to find out, is that we had kind of started to get to the bottom of the barrel, certainly in terms of people's key concerns about the community.
Well, thanks, Gary. Nadia, yourself?
Just reflecting on your question about highlights, I think the engagement with Mana Whenua has been well received on both sides, and I think that's shown throughout the document, and including the inclusion of them around hearing the submissions and the deliberations. I think it's a really, really good move on behalf of council.
Thank you. Councillors, anything further? Yes, Councillor Williams.
So I just noted in my comment when I was going through my report, in the proposal for 10 and important that the entire Ōtorohanga community is fully aware of the draft. And info sheets to every household. Is that community or district?
That's community level. So it's this, we're following a very similar engagement as we did for the very first lot of engagement. We have newsletters printed, hot on my desk today. That will be in every town letterbox next Monday. Table talkers again throughout town, and also this time some DL brochures with the QR code on it, so that as people are interested, they can actually take the flyer home and go online and find out more information. And if they can't make any of the drop-in sessions, then they can still have their thoughts heard through a submission form or a survey.
But
District-wide, we asked, absolutely, yeah. So in terms of reaching our district-wide community, we're using social media and newspapers.
Thanks, David. Councillor Dow.
Just the consultation period, is that normal time frames? Like it's quite a big read. What's some people?
Yeah,
Is it too short a time frame?
Well,
I understand we put the time frame in, but is that a normal time frame? Or is it?
Yeah, so a lot of timeframes are 3 to 4 weeks. What we're doing is we're going live with the documentation for a week first, actually a week and a half, before we start the consultation of it. So before we have any of those drop-in sessions, it'll be out for a week and 2 weeks before the public drop-in sessions. Everything's going out into the streets today. In fact, it probably is already in terms of the table talkers and information like that. And we're gearing up on social media. So it is a big read. And I would certainly suggest that people use that first week to have a good look through it. I guess essentially in the front too, there's a bit more of a summary of the whole document if you didn't want to get into the nitty-gritty. And then at the end of it, the key actions that we're going to take out of it. So if I was to recommend that people digest any of it, it would be that first part and the last part.
Thank you, David. Good questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Missed this earlier, but I see there's some hard copies here. Have we been sent to soft copy the email yet? Or
Correct, you have. It was attached to the, is a side attachment to the agenda.
No, it wasn't because I on the website, but it's on that. Yeah, but if you go into the council website, agenda and stuff, it's there, but we weren't sent it.
Apologies for that. It's like a bit of a
I'm not very
miscommunication.
computer thing like that.
Okay,
It's just
so there's a link in the cover email, councillors. So obviously going on the council website or going back to that email, click on the link.
The document itself is too large to have email in its entirety, which is thanks.
Cool. No further questions, councillors? If not, we have the staff recommendation that the Ōtorohanga District Council approves, subject to final editorial changes, the release of the draft Ōtorohanga Town Concept Map for community feedback for the period A of the period of community engagement running from 25 July to 15 August. Feedback submissions closing at 9 AM Monday, 15 August 2022. Submissions heard and all feedback considered by a joint meeting with the Ōtorohanga Community Board and Ōtorohanga District Council, supported by Mark Fennell and representatives, to be held on Monday, 29 August 2022. Those timeframes are correct. Do I have a move and a second? I move Councillor Dow, a second Councillor Williams. All in favour? Against? Carried. Hey Gary, thanks for your time so far. You've got a lot of work ahead of you still, but all the groundwork's been done at this stage. So really appreciate the input and glad that it's gone smoothly so far. And let's hope it continues. So turning up.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Cheers, Gary. Thank you. Sorry.
I'm just going to leave.
Okay. Sorry.
Apologies for the rest of us, but I do need to be in Cambridge. And I won't see you next week.
Awesome. Take care. See everyone. Thank you, Nadia. Okay, councillors, moving on to item 268, Ōtorohanga Kiwi House Projects Report. I'd like to welcome Tim and Joe along with Graham. Graham's presenting to this, so you guys talk to it or answer any questions that come accordingly. Thank you. Cheers, Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I'll just give a brief introduction, and then I'll give councillors the opportunity to ask Tim and Joe any questions. So this report is part of the ongoing, I guess, progress report that's required under the agreement of the loan. So just to sort of summarise, I guess, where we're at, council has advanced approximately half of the loan, $985,248.66, $335,718 of that was to repay an existing loan for BNZ, and there's been one advance on the capital project of $649,529. In terms of the attached financial summaries, there's a profit and loss to the end of May, a report based on visitor numbers and other key indicators, and also the project construction timeline. So just in summary, in terms of the key items, and I'll let Joe and Tim talk this too, is that the trust has received the IAG grant and completed demolition required for stage 2 and 3 and a large part of the main pond refurbishment. And as part of the co-funding arrangement with council, the loan for council will be used first. The trust head advisor will require another drawdown from council to complete stage 3 development. And the council loan funding and the IAG funding will take the development to the end of stage 5 with confirmation for funders to complete the project still pending. So at the time of, I guess, preparing the loan agreement, which was 2 years ago, it was envisaged that borders would eventually open up and visitor numbers from domestic and international tourists would allow the trust to start repaying the loan from 1 July 2022. So we did a lot of crystal ball gazing back then, and it's really, I guess, taken 2 years for those borders to fully open up, and it's only end of April this year that New Zealand's allowed fully vaccinated foreign nationals into the country, and the borders won't be fully open until the end of July this year. So with no international tourists, visitor numbers have been well down, and nearly half of that in the previous years. So council resolved at their meeting last May to extend the interest-free period and term of the loan by 2 years to take those factors into account. In terms of their the operating costs of the Kiwi House, it was sort of a break even at the end of the financial year, with being propped up by the DOC funding to basically keep their essentials going. So looking at the projected capital timeline, and now that we have borders back open, my interpretation of where we're at is that, yeah, we've now got a stake in the ground, and that we can go forward from there. But I'll leave it open to councillors to talk to Tim and Joe. You want to come sit up here and then
Come up, feel like you're in the background. Thanks, Graham. Firstly, welcome to you both. Nice to have a report. Really, really good. Appreciate there's been a lot of pressure on you over the last couple of years, and no doubt that is going to carry on for a while yet. I'll just open up the questions. Just a couple off the top of my head. Just clarification on the FTEs. Two questions here. One of them is, I'm surprised at all the pressure and the lack of tourist numbers that you've actually increased your FTEs by 1 in this past financial year. And do FTEs include contractors?
So FTEs that you're seeing there include the people that we've got on fixed term contracts for the development. So that's where that bump is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So actually, in terms of our core staffing, we dropped quite a bit in capacity
Okay, cool. I couldn't get
there.
clarification.
Yeah,
on that, so
sorry,
thank you for
probably
that.
should. I could separate them out for you. Might be easier.
No, it's fine. I just needed that clarification to see where that extra staff number and why that would come in, and if it's to do with the construction of the development, then I totally understand that. Just I suppose 2022 has been probably even more significantly challenging than what one would have expected after 2021 with the drop in numbers. Borders open in July, as you said, the end of July, but the indicators in the report were that there's bookings from December, so there's not much happening, it appears, between July through to December.
It looks quite slow in recovery. What we're forecasting is about 50% of our pre-COVID visitation throughout the year. And that's based entirely on what the Glowing Cave has got in their forward bookings. So as you're aware, we draw off the cave as the primary attraction, and we're fairly certain with forward bookings in terms of itineraries from December onwards. I can't predict what we're going to get in that period, sort of August, September, October. But across the year, we think we'll make 50% of our normal admissions.
And one last question, how's the development going?
Good. Slow. So we're 6 months behind schedule, and it's just the effect of COVID and having to have some unforeseen issues with dropping the development down due to the ground stability and finding 5 springs so far. So, you know, water's great, just we've got a bit much of it. But we have worked our way forward. So we brought in a company called Eyeline Construction to help us bunny hop to gain some of that time back. So they will be taking on one part of the project completely, and they're also helping us in terms of ensuring our schedules are met.
Councillors, questions? Yeah, Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Worship. Through you. I just note the profit and loss statement shows a loss for the period of 46,000. I just wanted to make the point though that about nearly 35,000 of that figure was depreciation. So effectively you have a loss, cash loss, if you like, of 11,000, which I think is a pretty good result considering the circumstances. Yeah. As far as the transfer of the assets go, is there a timeline on that? Transfer of assets, formal confirmation that the assets and liability of the society are transferred to the trust. Is that critical in terms of the overall project? Or?
Well, yeah, if that's taken place, that took place in July of 2001.
Is it?
20
Okay,
yeah.
it's not shown in the comments as having been completed. So okay, so I'll just yeah. Probably more of a question for Graham, this one. What is the interest rate that council's paying on the additional funding, the $2 million, and at what cost to council over the next 2-year period will that be?
Just thinking, yeah, so we initially when we took out that loan, Councillor Jeffries, we were going to draw it down a corresponding loan with the LGFA.
Yep.
But we never did that. So we've just basically funded that out of cash.
By cash. Yeah. Yeah. I thought there was a case, but I just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
So a lot of that future funding will depend on what the OCR is doing as well over the next period of time, and obviously we're looking at some significant increases in the short term. So yeah, thankfully we've got the LGFA.
Yeah, and I think at the main meeting we decided that we will review that line in 2 years, then we will look at what the LGFA rate is at the time. Rather than sort of leaving it open-ended, we'd like it, we'd look at it.
Tim, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, well, I just want to say that we do really appreciate the council's support, and obviously in a rising interest rate environment, it's an additional cost to our ratepayers, and we fully get that, and appreciate the extension of your kindness to us, but in the circumstances, that was definitely the best option, and hopefully we start to see things turn around from here, and we certainly budget.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So it's certainly in the best interest of everybody that everything comes to fruition at the end of the day. And yeah, as I said, the LGFA for both parties is valuable in terms of keeping that interest rate low, but being acutely aware of what the OCR is doing as well. So yeah, watch the space, I suppose, over the coming months.
Just one further question, Your Worship. With inflation now at 7.3, the escalation clause, or escalation rate that's been applied to the project, are you quite satisfied that you're still going to be able to complete it without compromising the completion of the project?
Yeah.
Good luck with answering that question.
We're at the point, Kit, where we're doing everything we can in
Yep.
terms of using recycled materials and all sorts of things, and we'll take you through that when you come on site. But we're expecting to come in for these 5 stages, utilising our Ōtorohanga Charitable Trust facility that we've been offered as well. So there will, we do expect that there will be an overrun.
And just one final question. It's in your overview of business performance. I'm just curious as to when you say you're going to train animals for a native bird show, what are they going to do?
Birds on your head.
No, they give haircuts, so we don't want that. So we fly them to targets. So we train them to fly to certain colours or to certain commands. So not verbal commands, normally with a clicker or a whistle. And so the idea being that we can actually, in a care habitat, train them, and the visitors watch that occurring. So we open the crate, we blow the whistle and they fly into the crate, or they drop the rocks down the drain pipe. Preferably take the gold coins off the visitors. That's also a nice one. So yeah, items like that.
I'll be interested to see that.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Ooh. Yes, of course.
Yeah, no, I just when I was looking at the accounts there, just in terms of like to finish the the whole project, right through to stage 7, it just wasn't obvious how much in terms you need to still secure it in terms of funding to complete it.
So the answer is we're not sure yet. So we've got to get our construction drawings finalised, and then we can get the final cost into.
Okay. We have engaged strategic partners to assist us with their fundraising. So they're a professional organisation, we have to pay the fee, but they've got fantastic connections in terms of providers. So they're trying to marry up providers with seekers of funds, and we're looking at entering into an arrangement with them to assist us with those future statements.
Councillor Williams.
I think that, that question of Graham's would be good if we, it would be good to know what's more, and be better to know on that, how that's progressing along, and not know. With the accountability clauses, I can see where Councillor Jeffries is asking the question. I think it's missing a bit, like the accountability clauses are in there, but we didn't actually have any outcome of them as to whether they were being achieved or not. And it looks like there has along the way been a bit of a delay. It's just the report is from October 21 to 31 May. So, but we were, the accountability is the quarterly reports and they to go to the CE, but we haven't seen whether they've actually been checked off along the way. And so Eyeline, this Gantt chart is new from them, and is that helping you? And obviously other red sections where they're we're overdue and they're trying to claw back time to, yeah. So that would be good to see.
Yeah.
How much is that? Was that commercially sensitive? Is that bringing them in? Is that sort of a big unbudgeted cost?
No, well, we've made some compromises in order to ensure that happens. But we've made savings in other areas as well. So by utilising recycled materials that have been donated to us, we've been able to, rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. Yeah. Because we were under capacity. There's no doubt about that. And that's something the trust has certainly had to come to grips with.
Just with the doc funding, have they committed to ongoing funding?
Yes.
Just to add to that, ongoing funding means what? Specifically a year, 2 years, 10 years? Is there a time frame around ongoing?
They haven't. So we had an agreement to the end of this year. They have committed to us verbally, but they have not got a mechanism. So it will more likely be in kind format. So whether it may be that rather than a grant, whether they'll pay some staffing or they'll pay for some venue, rather than the current system came from the minister and came out of the budget, and that pool has been used up. So now they have committed to funding us, but funding us through another series of mechanisms. Sorry, that.
So Joe, is this just an ongoing conversation with them continually for you then? That's unrelenting?
Yeah.
Which isn't ideal by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I mean, they were, I mean, it's been a disaster, right? So nobody had mechanisms for response. And the pool this year that they had set aside was, well, we've got nearly 40% of it. So that gives you an idea of their value for our organisation across others. So they funded all of the zoos that went in, but we've got the major chunk. Yeah, I mean, like most of the government departments, they just didn't have those instant ways of pulling this sort of thing together. They've never had to fund any of these zoo organisations before.
And the question, I don't know if you can answer this, Joe, there's been a lot of pressure on you over the last few years in your role as manager, administrator, whatever it may be, and you're still comfortable in that position. Is there a contingency should you pull them in?
Okay, Tim.
No, it's a good question.
It's actually huge, and that's been on a personal note, and don't blush, Tim, but it's been fantastic to see the strength in our governance team grow, and really reassuring for me, because it means that I can continue in what I've committed to the community to do. So I don't do fundraising anymore, which is awesome. Yeah.
Especially, I know what you did prior to recent times of COVID. So that's hence my question, because the workload's been exponential over the last 2 years, and whether that was sustainable on an ongoing basis is questionable.
Yeah, it's been a lot of hair doing that.
Yeah, not me. Yeah.
we have identified as a trust that we're certainly under-resourced in terms of, the development, and Jo's doing about 5 people's jobs, even though she probably wouldn't admit it. So, that it is still an issue, but, we've just got limited capability to deal with it at the moment. But we've certainly identified that in our strategic plan, something we need to address.
Councillors, questions?
No, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Through you, Your Worship. So I would ask, is quarterly reporting realistic? Is it necessary and realistic? Because we're struggling to get reports on agendas. And, it's Graham and I, sort of get the feedback here, and I sort of passed it on to Tim the other day. I don't know. Things are a lot maybe more slow moving than what we thought they were going to be. So, do we say, do we move it out to 6 monthly, even 3 times a year? But we would need to commit to this council to having reports on the agendas at those times if we were going to relax the reporting requirements.
I think the initial requirements, I think we'd assumed a June balance date as well. With your May balance date. Yes. It's May balance date. So, there's a few moments.
So it's between yourselves and Graham, if we can just sort that out and actually make sure we do stick to that date, it'd be really, really helpful. I suppose from our perspective, and Tony's question was an absolutely fair one. I mean, we start doubting at this end if the reports aren't coming in, what's going on behind the scenes, so to speak, considering the commitment that the council has made to support. Also keeping in mind, it probably goes back to Tony's question again, but understanding the workload that's on you and whether it is realistic. So I think just that conversation can be ongoing with Graham too. We've got that fair commitment. Councillors, any further questions? Yes, Councillor Foster.
My comment would be, do we need the reports that regularly? I know they're nice to have, but is it critical?
And that's why the question was asked, I suppose, whether it be 6 monthly or whatever. I think it's as important to ourselves as it is to the ratepayers. We're committing to organisations a significant level of funding that the reports do come in. So we're ahead of the game. We're aware of what's going on.
I understand that, but I also understand from the other side that you're trying to do the business and you're trying to get all the administration reports.
No, totally.
And how much would it impact on the council business?
So we can come up with an arrangement that's suitable for both parties, and as long as that is stuck to, as long as we stick to it, we're okay. So, I get your point. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Yes, councillor.
I'd just like to congratulate you on all your multiple funding streams for your operational funding. I mean, it's great. We will understand how long it's been, and you've been very resourceful in tapping into all those different funding streams. So I suppose as a council, we can help the capital part, but it's that operational part which is done really well, keeping that place ticking over. So well done.
No further questions. Look, thank you to you both, and we will actually commit to coming for a visit when we're not all sick as well. So our apologies for the last one, and that it was due to sickness as much as anything. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. So we have staff recommendation that the Ōtorohanga District Council received a report titled Ōtorohanga Kiwi House Progress Report, document number 63889 from Graham Munn, Print Manager, Business Enablement. So the movement is second. With Councillor Johnson, second Councillor Jeffries, all in favour? Aye. Against? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 269, Civil Defence Emergency Management Quarterly Report. Andrew.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say that this report's kind of a bit out of time frame. It's reports for the first quarter of the year, and the delay in preparing it was due to the staff being committed to the preparation for the civil defence exercise we held at the end of the second quarter. So really, I suppose, the only matter of note in there is a report on the storm we had at the end of summer. Tail of a tropical depression that whipped across the North Island and created a bit of a weather bomb event in the Maricopa Valley, which is illustrated in the back half of the report. Pretty much a summary of the report, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Just, just in the last week, there was, we had a lot of rain. I had a couple of calls from people about, if they're concerned or their information. We don't really have a role to be. Is it true? Well, my answer thing was that, you've got your own resources to get, it's what the water level is doing in the river is online. You can look it up. Am I doing the right answer, or should we, for concerned ratepayers, that they be able to contact someone in the council? Oh, what are we doing?
And these people that had property on the river boundaries that were affected by the river flow. Yeah, so you're correct. There is an amazing amount of information available on the regional council website. I think that river monitors update themselves every hour or something. It shows rises, falls, rates of fall, and the luxury we have here is that we've got a water gauge right up on the upstream side of the Ōtorohanga Gorge, so we get basically pre-warning of a rising river level through that gauge. So yeah, if there's not information from them, also on the regional council website, they can actually register to go on to a notification list so that they receive updates themselves.
So is it from Waikato?
Waikato Regional Council, yeah, it's our regional council that we charge for those facilities.
Councillor Christensen.
I was just thinking, just what Andrew's saying, from my point of view, then, is that not something we should promote on our social media or websites so that we can actually point people to that website so that they can actually follow it? Because lots of people like that gauges up Ōtorohanga, but it's in town where all the rivers meet that people start to get concerned. But like they've got, you can direct them.
Yeah, through you, Risha, I just thought exactly the same thing, and I'm on our Facebook page now, and there was a post on the day of the flooding.
I missed it.
Yeah, same, and that's why I thought I'd share. Heavy rain possible for the Waikato, warning, and a link to the flooding website so that people can go straight in and look. So yeah, I don't know, maybe how we're. What else we can do?
I'll find that and then I'll put it out there on my network. And when I get the phone calls, I'll tell you that.
So if you were, sorry, Richard, but if you were to go to the Waikato Regional Council, and I'm not too sure what they've got up on their homepage at the moment, but during that water flood, that rainfall event, river levels was top right-hand corner on their homepage. So it was front and centre for anyone that went to fire or look for information. So
we do a link on our council website too. There's a few things going on there, but is there anything, or is there flowing, or we information, or?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
It's not everyone does Facebook. Yeah.
That one of Maricopa, that I speed a trucker that way. That's bizarre. But the only road closure notice you could find on Waitomo when the official transit was that was closed for the fuel tank that caught fire about a week earlier. Nothing. Basically, yeah, you had to go on the locals, find the local farmer, and there was nothing official on anything because we were searching for it because they said, oh, they've got this road closed sign. No one there standing there, just a road closed sign. And you look on the website, and it's just said it's closed because of a fuel tanker, to recover the fuel tanker. So
Yeah, I mean, through you, we should
So I'm not
usually
sure
when
who's
there's
in charge of the
something
data.
happen, like we're activating or we're declaring or something like that, we would put something up
Yeah.
on there. But I mean, what do we say? Don't panic, everybody don't panic. I mean, I don't know, what messages do you put out? Because people are saying, should I worry or shouldn't I worry? Who's going to tell me when I need to start worrying? Will it be too late by then? So I understand the angst out there.
Yeah, that wouldn't, like, say, for instance, probably in that case, I'm assuming Informax would be the Ōtorohanga District Council's contractor who put the road closed sign up. Wouldn't they tell their council person, put it on your Facebook
Yes,
or
yes,
put on your
yeah,
website?
yeah.
But they, no, you know, that's what I mean. Hopefully our council will go,
Be proactive in the-
or just, it's just passing information. You know, like someone didn't do that step. Or someone went and closed the road. They didn't actually update that. You know?
Yeah.
It's just that we live in a world of misinformation now, and I want quality information.
Yeah, well,
Fill the
that's what
gaps,
we want.
right?
Yeah.
When they haven't got that information, they fill it themselves.
Well, that's right. The worst thing is, the miles away from flooding into the town, but you get a lot of water. What do you get a lot of water up here? We've got sodden soils, and everybody's thinking, oh my God, flooding, and if they can't access information, they think the worst. And I just want to, sort of these clear paths. Have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? And so that they can make their own, make their own decisions about it. I just, it's like clearer pathways for information out there.
Thank you. It's no good thing Ricardo is pleased that all the pump stations work.
Yes, that was one benefit of it. So we have, I suppose the best way of describing within Ōtorohanga in these situations, it's a bit like a swimming pool in that it captures its own rainwater and it doesn't get out the ponding areas. And we have pumps that empty those ponding areas, but they can't be tested until the ponding areas get a bit of water in them. And so we need a flood, give them a test. And I understand that they've got a test, so all's well.
Yeah, as well. Yes, Councillor Jeffries.
One quick question through you, Your Worship. Andrew, 7.1 of the report, that regional exercise, was that actually held in May?
Yes, it was. Yeah, so we'll report on that in the next quarterly.
Okay, I'm just curious, would that exercise be based solely on urban areas, or does it include the smaller communities like the Pew Pews and the Bennydales? And
so we reran the scenario of the storm, the Dobie storm that pictures are of there.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, it was very much rural focused.
Thank you, councillors.
Yep.
Thank you, Andrew. We have a staff recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council receives a report titled Civil Defence Emergency Management Quarterly Report from Andrew Lowe, Group Manager, Regulatory and Growth, and Dave Syme, Civil Defence Emergency Management Operations Manager. Moving a second for that, please. Councillor Johnson, Councillor Dow, all in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Against? Carried. Thank you. No other agenda items? So before we go on to the council update, I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of Derek Brewster. Obviously for us as a council and for Ōtorohanga as a community, his presence in town will be sorely missed. He was certainly a key connecting point for Tanya over the last couple of years with Neki Millie, RNC, and certainly somebody that we've got to know really well over the last couple of years from coming back to town and then this last, and obviously a big presence at a company too. So you'd just like to acknowledge that and sad moment for obviously the Western family and for the Ōtorohanga district and the wider New Zealand community. Moving on to councillor update. Councillor Dow.
I went to a freight action plan that was this day, which was supposedly, well, basically I didn't even mention Ōtorohanga, and but it was a council, I think, and they've got a new action plan for the carting freight between what they call the Golden Triangle, basically a Bay of Plenty Waikato thing. I thought it was a bit disappointing. Like in their own plan, they said that 93% of freight's moved on a truck and yet they had no truck people sitting on the front. They had the rail and a guy that says going to sell hydrogen gas. No, but anyway, and they kind of structured it. You didn't really have that much time to question and talk to people, but anyway, it was informative, and there was other people there. I think Michelle was there from Development Board. So, yeah, so I went to that. What else have I been doing? I didn't go to community board because my partner had to go for operations. So it didn't happen anyway. But that's pretty much.
You were invited to the expressway opening, did you?
No.
No?
Oh, I used that on Saturday. What a debacle that is. It goes from 3 lanes, 4 lanes down to 1.
Yeah. No kidding.
And then for about 20 metres, you're going to 1 lane, and then you can, because I was on the golf at the airport turn off, and then it goes back into 2 lanes. So why they didn't just leave it? So they could. But anyway, I think Waka Kotahi got a lot of issues, to be honest. But yeah, so what else have I been doing in town? That's pretty much it.
Thanks,
I've
Councillor.
been to road. Actually, I did go to someone on a road transport executive, and I did go to committee meeting. And because of the feedback of the town plan, a lot of people talked about heavy vehicles going through the main street. So I just brought it up amongst the executive there. If there's any suggestions, pretty much was put around about at each end. If you want trucks to not go through the main street, but they will instruct their own trucking companies, to try and refrain from going to the main street. But if you're really serious about wanting to get them out of this, they basically talk about you can go north, getting from the bypass to Hill. That's why people don't tend to use it as much. But anyway, you put it out there, I suppose. That's what it is. That's about it. Thanks.
Councillor Christensen.
No, nothing really for me. The community board was cancelled. Went along and helped plant a few thousand trees on the riverbank, which was pretty cool. Yeah, that's me.
Councillor Williams.
Yeah, community farming day as well.
Let's do it.
Yep. Yeah. Good to hear that they are still some organising and gender planning for the upcoming risk and assurance meeting. With leadership and some missed the limitless local last night, but I'm assuming that those types of webinars and things that they come to send out will make links available to them.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a few questions asked during that webinar. Talking about American recovery from communities with the cyclones and stuff.
And along with the
yeah. Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Concept briefing with Ross. You could have put that stuff there, but anyway. And I had two, I attended just in the last month, 2 district licensing committee online training webinars. But I must say there was about 7 of them, and I like 2 because for an hour and a half each round of the day, you have to be able to spend time to tune into them. But you could listen to it. That's me. Thank you.
Councillor Foss.
Just after the last council meeting, the Ōtorohanga librarian asked me to accompany her to Ōtorohanga School and to Roma community, and she is wanting to engage more with the rural population and is very willing to enable that population of people to actually have access to books through, I thought it was going to cost $7 to send books out, and she is very motivated to ensure that that population will get it. No, we are really lucky to have her, and such an ethical woman. It's quite interesting when you go into the rural community, people start talking like that. She knew when to. So, but no, she's really good. So, the Ōtorohanga school is actually has almost doubled its students. So that's it's very interesting that rural schools go ebb and flow depending on who the principal is or what's happening.
One large family coming in.
So what's it now?
It's 37, and before it was down to below 20. And they believe that the murder incident is sort of no, it's not forgotten, but it's dissipated, and isn't and the community is now resetting. That's the new word that everyone uses now, but it seems to be in a good place. So that was really good, and I look forward to hearing that follows through. I've been continuing to follow the machinations of Three Waters debate, both on radio and TV, and the interactions that we're getting in the paper and whatever. So there's certainly a lot of debate. And, you know, without me even speaking it, it's certainly in front of my face. I went to the Waikeria Community Impact Forum last week, and you all know that it's behind a little, I won't open until 2024. 25. They were a bit more optimistic. And the budget doesn't seem to be right. Carrying on. Well, I guess you have to, if you're building a prison and you've got people coming, you have to finish it, don't you? and make that happen. I've actually got a photo here of the prison, but, as it is at the moment. I'll find it, pass it around. Yeah, I put it somewhere. And they're commencing recruitment now because they want to get the new staff on board now and have had some absolute practice before they actually start filling the prison. They're no longer going to Wellington to do their training. So it is going to be done on site at Waikeria, and it is going to have a taha Māori approach to recruitment. And a woman by the name of Tanya seems to be the lead in that. And so they're actually recruiting, they are recruiting now and picking up quite a lot of locals because they aren't very keen to have migrants. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And the staff, there's a high, I think it's 44% of the people who are working at the prison now, the tradies who are on the job, are coming from local too. When I mean local, it's Tiamu to Ōtorohanga. So that's all good. So And last thing, there's a lot more to Derek Worcester than is acknowledged locally. It was a wonderful picture presentation about him on TV, and there's a lot that I did. His life on television and radio, and a very revered person. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, on 23rd of June, I had a meeting with Mark and a local resident at Kaora Street, and it was to do with access down to the beach below the historic Ōtorohanga tree. And as an interim measure, there were some concerns about safety and the concrete retaining wall there. As an interim measure, there's some safety rails put up there just to stop people from falling over the edge. And until consultation's been undertaken on what's proposed and a decision made on what further actions will be taken. Excuse me. 14th of July, I went to that meeting with QQ Hall, with the Three Waters, and one that was completely new to me was the ruminant methane tax debate. I've not heard of that one before. It was a lively 3-hour meeting, and
aren't you lucky you're not a farmer?
and Toby did a great job. I thought he spoke well, and despite a lot of heckling, he was able to advise and comment on the Three Waters and the review of the RMA. It was made clear, I believe, to those present that involvement in the Three Waters proposal has now been legislated for, and that concerns about the loss of democratic processes in respect of consultation with those who will end up paying the charges for Three Waters need to be directed to central government. Local government is legally obliged to comply with all the legislative requirements imposed on it. So I think a lot of people there were pointing the finger at the council, and they needed to be corrected on that point. Good news I had from John and Fiona Scott, a very nice email saying, I'm wondering if you could pass on to our roading contractors our appreciation of the work they did this week on Ōtorohanga Road. Water tables were cleared and the road was graded right out to the edges, and then the roller followed. A great job, exclamation mark. So if that could be passed on, that would be appreciated. The loss of the Carpio Sports Club. This leaves a huge gap in Carpio for a venue that can cater for functions and events. The club provided ample parking with good kitchen and bar facilities and lounge and dining areas. The committee is awaiting on a report from insurance assessors, and I understand that the committee met last week, but I'm unaware of what actions it wishes to take at this stage. Whatever they may be, I expect there'll be a round or two of community consultation to determine the future of the club and its facilities. I too, and I acknowledge the comments made by yourself, with your worship, and with Councillor Kloss. I just wanted to acknowledge the very sad and unexpected passing of Derek. I had a bit to do with Derek in his role as chairman of Carpio Tainui Incorporated and his recent involvement with Te Taio Carpio Moana. He was on all counts a highly regarded, community-spirited man who passionately represented Maori interests at all levels. His contribution will be lasting, and his loss is deeply felt. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Yes, Chris.
I've got something. On the 24th, we had our first Matariki event in town. Yeah, it was a really good turnout over the day. I would say there were probably over 100 people that came through. So hopefully we can go bigger and better next year. Part of Derek's involvement on the community grants, creative communities, it was Derek's idea to give us funding to get native trees to give away that day, and there's some left over. So we were thinking as a group that we would gift them to Te Kiti as part of their upgrade, so that they can be planted in memory of Derek. Yeah, I first met Derek when he moved down and bought
their property, and we put in a few hundred trees on his sideling, which is now a native bush because, yeah, so, yeah. It's been
Nothing further, councillors? Not, I will declare the meeting closed. And we'll discuss